get this price like a wholesaler would, but I need time, right? So, okay, maybe you buy yourself some extra time, and in that way you can actually get the professionals to look at it, run some budgets and say, yeah, this is a good one, or okay, well, we could run into problems here. So that extra time actually works like a buffer for us.
You're listening to Ice Cream with Investors, a podcast that is dedicated to teaching you how to better invest your money so that you can live a more intentional life. I'm your host, Matt Four, and it is my goal to teach and empower you to remove the roadblocks to your financial success.
All right, Darcy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Matt. Great to be here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we like to start with the difficult questions here. What's your favorite ice cream?
I like chocolate mint, actually. I'm a mint guy. I love it.
Have you always liked mint chocolate? Like, has it been a kid thing and then you've always liked it, or is this a recent thing?
No, it's kind of, yeah, I've always liked it. The thing is, I'm an older guy, so in the 70s, it wasn't always necessarily available. You pretty much just had the vanilla, strawberry, and chocolate. But once I figured it out, it's been my favorite since then.
All right. So here's the genesis behind that question is I loved it as a kid. And I always thought it's because my dad told me, get mint chocolate chip because no one likes it. No one will ask you for a taste of it. But what I've noticed is that my kids love it. And so we'll go to a ice cream store and that's what they order. And I'm like, wait, you like mint chocolate chip? So yeah, that's interesting that maybe it's a kid thing that you always like. And if you like it, you like it.
Same thing with soda, with the like my favorite is root beer, and my wife and my kids hate it. They think it tastes like, they always say it tastes like toothpaste. So I'm quite happy with that.
Yeah.
I mean, just enjoy it over here.
They're obviously wrong, so that's okay.
They're obviously, yeah.
I love root beer. Well, tell our listeners, what's the scoop? What do you do today?
So I'm a land development guy, new construction guy. I'm all about real estate development. Let's not fix up old stuff. Let's knock it down and build new. So
I love it. I love it. Well, where did your real estate journey begin in land development?
So I used to be an IT guy, like tons of people in real estate. And late 90s, I was actually lived and worked full time in South America. So Venezuela, Mexico, Colombia, Brazil. I had the time of my life. My wife's Venezuelan. My kids were born down there. I always joke that I went to South America and I made my own souvenirs. So that was, that was good stuff. But it got burnt out. When you're overseas, you make a lot of money, but yeah, they work you hard. So I didn't want to see a computer. I wanted to go back, and I've always wanted to do real estate. So I came back and got into flips, because everything was kind of flips and rentals. That's all there was really the bread and butter of this industry for 40 years. So, okay. So did a few flips and then couldn't sell a couple. So all of a sudden I'm a landlord. I guess I'm a landlord now. And then I get bored easy. So I've just done all the strategies, burr, condo conversion, long and short-term rentals, fix and flips. And then I eventually got into new construction and land development and all that. And I like that because you get to do with new. I got tired of dealing with old and nasty buildings and trying to fix them up. So now I like to be new. I like to be creative. I like to watch the building literally rise out of the ground. So that's pretty cool. I like that part.
Yeah. I mean, and if you're bored, like always doing something new, there's always going to be a new curveball, a new zoning requirement, a new problem to go solve. So that is a good place to be.
Because even after, I've renovated, a few hundred units, after the fifth or sixth, they're all the same. Like in order to make money in flips, you've got to standardize, so you're always using the same toilet and same plumbing. Electrical fixtures were always, I had three different, had an off brown color, an off green color, an off gray color for my color palettes. And, you just get bored after a while. So let's do new.
I want to take you back to the IT stuff real quick. So you were down in Venezuela, in Latin America. I'm assuming you were doing stuff in oil, or what were you doing down there from an IT perspective?
Yeah, so I was working as a consultant, and my client was a big multinational oil and gas company out of Houston, Texas, and I was working with their accounting software. So I'd go to these countries and live there for about a year while I installed some accounting software and did the training of the people and all that. And my wife worked for them in the first country I visited, so we got on well, and then she actually quit that and started working for me doing the training and because she obviously speaks Spanish fluently. So I would kind of work in the background doing the geeky stuff while she worked with the people. So yeah, it worked out really well. And we'd carry, each year we'd have another kid. We had three kids, so we're carrying a little baby, along with us in the airports and trying to go from country to country. So it was a great experience. It was a great time in my life.
And were you involved in real estate then? Was it even on your radar, or were you just strictly, this is what I'm doing right now?
I actually got my first real estate book given to me when I was 15. So that's early 80s. So that's over 40 years ago. I'm 57 now. And I'm fascinated by it. I always wanted to do it and never did. My dad actually, kind of a retired farmer, and he started to get into it. He never actually pulled the trigger, but he would kind of take me along as we, saw this, an eightplex or something that he was thinking about building. I was just, I had my Radio Shack TRS Model 80 computer back in the day, and I wrote a program to do kind of the projective profit and loss for that, and I'd plug in the numbers, and it was actually, really, yeah, he never pulled the trigger. So actually, funny story, when I came back and I started going into flips, he lived vicariously through me because, like I said, he never pulled the trigger, but he loved the stories. Oh, Dad, I just bought this one. It's disgusting. There's mushrooms and grass growing on the carpet. And, I got rid of it. So he kind of loved those stories. So it was pretty cool.
I think we share some similar backgrounds there. My dad was a steel building construction contractor. So you want to build a Dollar General or Tim Hortons up there in Canada, then you would contract him out and he would subcontract that out and go build it. And I do think he kind of vicariously lives through me and some of the stuff that I'm doing, because he always talks about, man, I should have bought these. I should have been owning these properties. And it's good father-son bonding to kind of talk through some real estate horror really stories.
Cool. And some of the before stories of the stuff I bought, I called myself the king of nasty. It was just disgusting, but he loved it. So there you go. So,
yeah. Well, the point of me asking that was, did you ever look at land or any kind of real estate investments down in South America? Because that's one of the things since I gotten in this space. I always, whenever I travel overseas, I look at properties and then I kind of go on my own little due diligence journey of understanding what it costs there and all that kind of stuff. But the hard part is a lot of those countries, it's land leases. So you've basically built a building on that and you're leasing out the land to someone. So you never really technically own it. I'm just wondering if you've ever thought about that, looked at that, or what that was like.
Yeah, I didn't back in the day. Like, it didn't even cross my mind. I was too busy having kids, I guess. But anyway, so, but yeah, whenever I travel now to Costa Rica or Panama, what it would be like, I dig into it now and just see. So.
Yeah, gotcha. So today you buy land, you fix it up, you development. Obviously, there's a lot of steps in between there, and this is a part of my real estate journey that I've never been a part of. So I'm going to ask a lot of questions. But talk us through, like, what markets are you looking at right now, and then we'll get into kind of the tactics behind it.
Well, a lot of it depends on what you do. And maybe if I can just preface that a little bit by, I think a lot of us have kind of a misconception of land development. That's, the big companies on the outskirts of town buying hundreds of acres and throwing up thousands of tract homes. I can't do that. That's too big. I'll never do that. And we go back to our flips and rentals. But we can bring that down to, investors our size. Development can just be, a regular city lot in your city, right, with a 1910 tear down. So there's kind of three steps to development. There's permitting and entitlement. Can we change the zoning or density? So there's a single family house there now, but we can get it changed so we can build a fourplex. Maybe the next step would be we get our architect to design that fourplex, and then we actually get a building permit approved. Well, now I've got a shovel-ready package that I can sell to the builder. So I don't necessarily have to do work on site. I can knock on the house next door, tie that up. Now I've got two 50-foot lots together. What can I do with that? I can do land severance, which, I can now subdivide that 100 feet into 333-foot lots or 425s or whatever. So there's a lot of stuff in this paperwork only world that regular investors can get into. It's in and out quick, however long it takes your local municipality to process those kind of applications. The next bit is actually, I'm going to do something on site, maybe service lots. So I put utilities in the ground, knock down that old house. Maybe I split the lot in two, make sure both sides are serviced. Now I got two service lots I can sell to builders or even two young couples that want to build their own house, right? So there's lots of ways to get involved. And then maybe I want to take it all the way and I want to build that fourplex myself. I can do that too. So lots of entry points, lots of exit points, which I like in this world that's different from the flip and rental world. In the flip and rental world, I've got to finish. You can't half finish a flip and expect to sell it for profit. You can't half finish a rental and expect a tenant to live there. So that's pretty cool about it. So back to your original question, I'm looking for places typically where you can get in and out quick, where it's not, the difference around, different places is this city will approve that change of zoning in 2 months. This place will take 2 years. We're investors, we want to be in and out quick. So let's not play in the 2-year place. Let's play in the, the 4 or 6 month place. So typically now that's more your southern states, the Texas, the Floridas, the North Carolinas, Tennessee, these kind of places, Georgia. Tennessee's good. So, you've got that ability to kind of get in and out quick, which I've learned over 23 years is because interest rates change, costs change, governments change, government policies change. So I don't want to, that's one of the things, I had like 1,000 tenants, 240 doors in my day on the rental side, but I sold all my rentals because that's one of the things I didn't like is, you're waiting 8-10 years to kind of wait for that appreciation and equity pay down to, get to where you can actually have an exit event. Let's get in and out in a few months, or certainly less than 18 months to go all the way from build. So, that's kind of what I like about it too.
Yeah. I mean, I guess to summarize that, I heard in terms of markets that you're looking for, less Chicago, more Texas, essentially, if I could break it down. But are there specific states or counties that you look for in the states here to go do some of these deals?
Yeah. So that's, what even in a Texas, let's say, I've heard San Antonio being called, a blue city in a red state. So maybe they've brought some, a lot of the people that came from California to move there for the, the budding computer industry that's going down there. Maybe they brought a little bit of the politics with them. So there's a little bit more bureaucracy there. So, but, it could quite possibly be that, we all want to invest locally. It could be where you are is anti-development, right? That's quite possible. But, literally across the highway in another county or 30 minutes up the road in another city, life could be totally different, right? So every municipality, every county, state, town, or county, parish, city, town, whatever, the rules are all different. So it's that's part of what we need to do here is kind of where are we going to invest and what makes sense for the micro strategy that we want to do.
Yeah, I think that's the part that sounds very daunting to me is I know that from county to county, state to state, different zoning regulations change, processes change, and things like that. So I guess, how do you navigate that? I'm sure there's some core principles that, no, these are the steps. You just need to identify the different people in those markets who is the county commissioner or zoning appeal person or whatever that is. But how do you kind of bucketize that into a process?
So 23 years of doing stuff has taught me that no strategy works all the time, everywhere, in every economy. So there's pluses and minuses to everything, right? So there's downside to flips and rentals. The downside in development isn't really a downside. We just need to spend more time up front. As investors are we just want to go buy something. Let me look on MLS and buy something. Let me call my realtor. I want to buy something, right? Here we got to take a step back, breathe, we got to understand some new stuff. What is zoning and density and usage? How do I profit from that? We're always taught that the value is in the house. For the 40 years, we've been taught that, we get rich by increasing value to the house. Well, more and more the value is in the land as our inventory ages and all that. So how do I get highest and best use? We need to learn some stuff. Then we also need to focus on the geography. So, calling the local planning department and learning some stuff. How long does it take to do some of these things we just talked about? Oh, doesn't sound like it's a good place. They're really negative towards me. Okay, well, what about the county over or the city over? Okay, so eventually you kind of find a place that you like, and you drill down to specific neighborhoods. What I'm looking for specifically is, let me just give you a fact here. So the average lifespan of a wooden structure in North America is 70 years, and brick is 90. So that puts us in 1954 and 1934. So I used to be a fix-it-up guy. Now I'm kind of tear-it-down guy. Anything for me older than 1950, other than, historically or architecturally valuable properties. But that's a small percentage of what's out there. Most old crap is just old crap. So I'm looking for kind of neighborhoods, communities that were built 1950 and earlier. So if I'm in a city that's more or less pro-development, that it doesn't take too long to do stuff, where there's good demographics, people are moving to that city because of the housing crisis, or, we're seeing an unprecedented movement around the states from, we've never kind of seen before from state to state, typically from the Californias and the New Yorks and the Chicagos down to the Texases and the Floridas. So, is there a business case for me to add new units to this town? And is the government kind of helping or trying to be helpful in that? Okay, so we do that kind of upfront work, investigation first. Okay, now we can actually, kind of mine that area, now we can start to look for individual properties because we've figured out this is a good place to be. So there's a little bit of upfront work, but after you do that, then you're kind of good to go.
Yeah, I that's a unique perspective that I've never heard somebody mention. Is anything older than 1934 or 1954 that's a wooden structure is typically it's at the later end of its life. So buying something like that where you could maybe tear it down and redevelopment might be a better opportunity. I kind of went into this conversation thinking, land is land. Let me just go find land. But I never even thought about where my older housing that I could kind of repurpose, tear down and repurpose.
Because that's all we're taught. That's all we know. Like I said, I got my first book 40 years ago. We've just been taught, take an old building, fix it up enough to keep it or sell it. Well, why?
Yeah.
Pet peeve of mine is I'll see a 1910, 500 square foot house, brand new shingles, brand new windows, brand new everything. And I'm going, why? It's just 500 square feet. Like, knock it down. Come back with higher density because of the housing crisis. Let's build a fourplex on that same. We weren't really efficient with land always back in the day. So let's maybe do a little better as we're and that stops the urban sprawl. We don't have to just keep building out and out and out. Let's come back and redevelop kind of the inner city. I was talking to somebody just the other day, and they're I'm in Philadelphia, and I'm fixing up this 1880 house, and it's kicking my ass. And I said, okay, well, why are you fixing it up? Like, it's 150 years old. Just tear it down, right? Like, so just a different mindset. I've done a bunch of old stuff, and they're hard to work with. They're just nasty to rehab, right? So let's tear them down.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you mentioned that. I have a friend in Columbus, Ohio, who is looking at an 1890s house, and I told her, I'm like, the first thing you need to understand is when you rip off the walls, you have no idea what you're getting yourself into. So I would personally stay away from that because of the plumbing and the electricity and all that kind of stuff probably has to be updated to code, and you're just going to be pumping money into this thing. Yeah. Not once did it cross my mind that, hey, maybe you should tear that down and start building it new.
And nobody thinks like that. I guarantee of most of the guests you've had, I'm probably the first guy or one of the first people to talk about development, right? Nobody thinks about this stuff. Let's just, we're brainwashed, fix it up. No, that's, because most of us don't know most of us in the flip and rental world, we're going to find an older building, but we don't want it to be too nasty, right? We want it to, just a little paint, some new flooring, some new plumbing and electrical fixtures. If it's too nasty, I don't know what to do with it. If it's a vacant lot, heaven forbid, no idea what to do with that, right? Well, here's a little tip. If you knock down an old house, you get a vacant lot. So if we learn what to do with a vacant lot, and that eliminates all the competition. Because all of it, the flippers, the renters, the wholesalers, we're all just looking for the same property, right? And there's a massive competition out there. So this is a way to escape the competition, learn how to deal with vacant lots and old teardowns. So
all right, I'm sold. I live in Nashville, Tennessee. We're a growing market. We do have some older inventory. We don't want to tear something down that's pre-antebellum stages where it has some Civil War history to it. But this old 1920s house that, to your point, is 1,000 square feet and has 2 bedrooms that nobody's ever going to want to live in might need to be torn down. How do you find deal flow? How do you go about finding the opportunities out there?
So, couple ways. So driving for dollars, we're typically taught, okay, we're going to go and we're going to look for, a place with high grass and it's being mismanaged. So I'm going to buy it. In my world, I'm actually looking for precedent, right? So I've narrowed down, okay, here's a community that was, built in the 1940s and it's, I drive through it. And if I'm not seeing any new development at all, like zero new stuff, then that kind of tells me that the not in my backyard, the NIMBY crowd is pretty strong. But if I drive into another one, that house has been knocked down. They've built a duplex, or side-by-side semi. Here there's some new construction going on. Okay, so now this is a community that I can kind of get behind. So driving takes on a different meaning there. And another little tip here too, if there is construction going on, there's a security fence, the chain link fence, the trades will put their signs on it. Okay, so that's a company that demolishes the old house. Now I've got a house demolishing company. And, the city advertising, the architect and whatever, they have to put their sign on the side. So, in case of emergency phone, so now I got an architect that I know designs fourplexes, right? So different things like that. And then the other thing I look for too is, zoning maps are color-coded maps with the city that say what each specific lot can, what's the density? Can it be a single family house? Can it be a duplex, whatever? And a lot of these times, these older communities that the city is looking to restore or renovate, they'll do a community redevelopment plan. So they'll have the 2 years of open houses and they'll come up with a new plan. This is what we want to see. Well, that's almost like looking into the future, right? So, for example, I know that this street here, currently it's all single family housing, but they want higher density, right? Because it's on a higher traffic street or whatever. And so now I know I won't have a trouble if I go to the city and apply for a fourplex or a sixplex or even, 3-story walk up or whatever, because the city and the community have already got together and decided that's the future, right? So thinking about these things differently, again, 99% of your fellow real estate investors aren't thinking about zoning and redevelopment plans. So this puts us in
Yeah.
a different space as well too, right? So really cool. I love the whole thing.
I'm pretty sure here in Nashville too, we have a single family zone, and then we have like a single family plus, and what am I trying to say? They have like a C1, which is just residential zoning, and then they have like a C2, which is residential single family up to 4 units. So one of the things like I've heard people here in Nashville go do is they look for those C2 units and where there's a single family house, and then they basically that's their pool that they're going to go fish in. And because
Right.
they know that they can rezone that property without having to go through the process and all that kind of stuff, knock that down, build 4 units. Now they've got 4 units instead of one. Is that
Right.
something you look at or have done in the
Yeah.
past?
Exactly. Yeah. And the trouble is, you've heard that from other, but very, very few other investors. Almost all the other, meetups and weekend conferences, if I were to go to Nashville, they'd be talking about flips and rentals and how to fix up that old building, right? Very few
Mm-hmm.
people are in this world thinking, okay, what's the zoning? The see what? Like what? I've never heard of these things, right? And
Yep.
so if you kind of educate yourself in this different world, there's a lot of opportunity.
Do you ever go try to acquire just raw land and fix it up too? Or
Yeah. Yeah, so I did a money raise recently, and I'm looking specifically now to buy 20 or 30 acres on the outskirts of Houston, Texas, because I want to do raw land development. Part of what because I wasn't really happy with the flips and rentals and having I never liked the landlord journey. So like I said, I had like 1,000 tenants, but I've recently sold all my rentals. I don't have any more at all. I like the dirt. I said there was kind of 3 stages to development. I like the let's get some raw land. Let's get the Tonka toy earth movers rushing around and changing it. Let's put some pipe in the ground, split it up, sever it, plat it, whatever you want to call it, and then sell those to builders, right? I don't have to take it the whole way through. I can just do this piece and sell it to the next piece. And, I grew up on a farm, so I like the smell of dirt. So that land bit appeals to me personally. I really like that. Yeah. So I do that for sure.
yeah, I think most people don't understand that. A lot of people in this space, they will acquire a large raw piece of land and then reparcel it, and then they will sell it to somebody that will go in and put the infrastructure, and then they ultimately end up selling it to the Pulte's, the Lennars, the larger home builders out there. So when you look kind of across your business and the deals that you've done, what percentage would you say is just literally acquiring the rights and rezoning it and selling it off to somebody else versus tear down and redevelop whole new housing?
Hey, fellow investors, before we dive into our next segment of the show, I wanted to take a quick moment to talk to you about a fantastic opportunity for you to invest with me. As you know, here at Ice Cream with Investors, I'm passionate about real estate investing and helping you navigate the exciting world of wealth creation through real estate. And that's why, for the first time, I'm thrilled to tell you about an opportunity for you to invest alongside of me. Over the past 3 years, I've been investing in multifamily, mobile home parks, car washes. I've even become the bank and lent out money to fellow real estate investors on a short-term basis. And now you can come join me. If you would like to jump on a call and learn more about this opportunity, head to icecreamwithinvestors.com/invest and find a time for us to connect. And now back to the show.
So, most of the time I've taken it all the way through to do something. What I don't like is just the flipping. I'm just going to find something for cheap. And then, there's all kinds of courses and people out there, land flipping. Well, I'm just going to, a lot of the time what they're doing is if you find me some land, I'll pay you $3,000 kind of thing. So I'll teach you how to find the land. It's just a search vehicle for the guru, right?
Smart.
Let's add value, right? So let's say I'm a wholesaler and I'm making, $4,000, $5,000 for a finder's fee just for flipping. Well, what if we learn to zone and rezone and change the density? 6 months later, you get a $50,000 check instead of a five. You can 10x just by learning a little bit of this stuff, right, and taking it to the next level. Or, like I said, you can learn to put the pipe in the ground and do that. You could just do that on paper too. You can get your architect to design where, the diameter of the pipes in the ground and how thick the concrete sidewalk's going to be without physically doing any work on site. And now you've got a valuable thing to sell to the developer with deeper pockets, right? So again, lots of entry and exit points. You can just buy land in whatever stage you like, add this little value to it. Here's my little niche, and then I'm going to sell it to the next person down the chain, and they can do it. So you can do like you do all the way through if you want, or just do the paperwork bit or piping, like whatever you want. This is what I really like about this too, is you've got lots more options, way more tools in your toolbox once you're done.
Yeah, and that's I think that one of the keys to real estate investing really is having multiple exit options. Too many times I think we go into deals and it's like, okay, I need these 5 things to work, and then there's my exit plan, and then step 1 doesn't work, and now you're kind of stuck with trying to figure out how to make it all happen.
Well, like I said right off the bat, I started flips and I couldn't sell a couple. Okay, well now I'm a landlord, right? So that's all you got. Here's plan A and here's plan B, and if that doesn't work, well then I'm screwed, right? So most of us just have 3 or 4 tools in the toolbox. With this world, I'll give you like 15 or 20 to so yeah, it's like, what's the best thing to do with this lot? Okay, it's a really old house, 1910 tear down. I don't know what to do with it. Most people drive off. Or if it's a vacant lot, don't know what to do with it. Well, now if you know what to do with that, maybe, like I said, I can just change zoning and density or sell, or anywhere, any of those different entry points. So it's makes you a much more valuable and flexible investor, much more able to handle downturns in the economy and changes like that if you've got multiple exit points. I like it.
Yeah. Well, we've talked a lot about interesting things you could do, multiple exit strategies, some of the great development that you've done, but not every deal is always going to be positive. What are some of the things we need to be looking out for, or due diligence items that we need to be checking off as we're finding properties and trying to run them through these processes?
Well, because they're exit points, if things do turn, one of my students, they had everything done to change that single family home to a fourplex, looking to profit about $200,000. Typically, you typically get about $50,000, $80,000 profit per new unit on a build. And then the interest rates changed a bit and the economy changed, and I was, oh my God, now I'm going to lose money. It didn't paper out anymore. But because they'd already changed the zoning and density, they got these the building permits and everything else approved. They were able to sell it to their builder. Because remember, the builders, let's say it was $180 a square foot. Their internal cost was $150. Well, there was a run up in price. Now I'm going to have to charge you $210. Remember, their price is still maybe $180 or $190. So it still makes sense for the builder to go ahead and do it, where it doesn't make sense for you anymore. So that's one thing. There's a lot more, call it pressure outlets if things go wrong in this world. But the other thing that we kind of like to do, because there's this this time it takes to get permits and whatever, if we can just tie up the property if we can control the land instead of maybe buying it. So instead of just, I'm going to buy your house in 45 days and here's the money, can we arrange for, like a 6-month period where, in return, I'm going to give you a little incentive to do that. But, maybe I'll come closer to your fair market value instead of trying to, get this price like a wholesaler would, but I need time, right? So, okay, maybe you buy yourself some extra time, and in that way you can actually get the professionals to look at it, run some budgets and say, yeah, this is a good one, or okay, well, we could run into problems here. So that extra time actually works like a buffer for us. So, there's lots of different things in this world in this development world that can help you avoid those problems too.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with options in the stock market, but some of these, you go create the option contract and things like that. It just interests me so much because of the flexibility and the creativity you can have in this space.
Yeah. I teach 11 different ways to potentially partner with the seller, right? In the flip and rental world, I need you to leave. I need the seller to leave because I got to fix up your place, right? So, vendor take back, agreements for sale, you're kind of limited. But here, I want the seller to say for those 6 to 10 months that I'm doing what I need to do. I need you to cut the grass and pay the insurance. And if you want to partner with me, well, now I don't have to raise, JV money either, right? Now, and my money can be put towards the city fees and permits and some engineering, to do whatever I need to get whatever permit I need. And then at the end, maybe, we're going to sell it to a builder who's going to take it the rest of the way. And, maybe we work out some kind of split with the seller, or, maybe if the seller still wants to live there, maybe, we're going to build some new condos, or we're going to build some new townhouses. And, maybe we'll give you a good price on one of the finished units, so you can live there, come back and live and
Yeah.
continue to have that same view you've had for the last 30 years.
Yeah.
So lots of different ways to interact with the sellers, which I like.
Yeah. The more I'm learning about the space, the more I get very interested in it. So appreciate the background there, but I want to be cognizant of your time and switch us now to our last round. We call these the 4 toppings. Our first one is, what is your favorite book, or what is a book you've read recently that's given you a paradigm shift?
So I'm liking, hopefully I can say here. So Adam Grant, I like. So 2-3 years ago, there was a guy named Malcolm Gladwell that was kind of the big name, because he was coming up with some different ways to think about this. And I like Adam Grant too. He makes you think differently. This one specifically on how to reframe. We kind of get stuck. This is what I know, and I'm, it's hard for me to change my mind. Well, what are the benefits from a business standpoint of kind of reevaluating things? So I'm liking him a lot.
Yeah. Are you a Malcolm Gladwell fan?
I was, yeah. I've got all his books too. Just different,
fellow
right?
Canadian.
Well, you're looking for different ways to think about stuff, right? So
yeah, I love how he takes kind of simple ideas, tells a story around them, and then they have a deeper meaning behind them. So
yeah, and Adam's kind of like that too. So
yeah. Our second one is, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Don't let perfection be the enemy of the very good, right? And so a lot of us are perfectionists. I'm kind of the opposite. I've always been, Pareto's law, the 80-20. I've always, I can get that new project from ground to 80%, but then I get a little bored. So, I'd build some houses and I'd go walk through do the final walkthrough with the new owner, the new couple that's going to live there. And, you've been in this house 1,000 times over the time, fixing, getting your trades ready and whatever. And all of a sudden, there's an inch between the baseboard and the heat register. And how come I never noticed that before? Okay, yeah, we'll write that down. I got to fix that. But, I'm bad for that. I'm bad for that last 20%. So don't let perfection be the enemy of the very good. I get it to very good, and I need other people to help me with the perfection part.
Yeah. I think I suffer from that a lot. It's like I need it to be perfect before it's complete versus, hey, getting it good enough can help you get to the next thing and let somebody else go finish the rest.
Yeah.
Our third one is, what are you most proud of?
So I'm proud of in this space, outside of my family, obviously, but I've done some subdivisions and then built the houses on top, right? So taking it all the way through, right? Like 7 acres, whatever, 20 acres. Even today, you can drive through that, and the sense of pride you feel, like, I built this. Like, this exists on the planet because I did it, right? Another thing, I helped get the local horse track and casino built. Brand. It was in creditor protection, which is kind of like Chapter 13, where your accounts are frozen, but you're given time for your creditors not to kind of attack you. You can work out a plan of arrangement to work out that. I was able to do that, and I was able to get this horse track and casino built. So I'm part owner of and on the board of a horse track. How cool is that? Right? And so just things like that, just where things were not going good, but now there's something there. That's what I really get excited by that.
Yeah, another little feather in the cap for the development train is the idea that, hey, this was once a vacant piece of land or whatever it was, and hey, now it's a 20-unit apartment complex or something like that. I mean, there's got to be a lot of pride in that.
Way different mindset or set. I've renovated 1950s houses. This is infinitely better. The sense of pride you feel here is infinitely better than that.
Yeah. Well, our last one is, if you could sit down and eat a bowl of ice cream with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
I like Abraham Lincoln. I'd like to meet him. So a lot of people kind of have history thrust upon them. They're just kind of at the right place at the right time. Like he changed history. So I like those people that kind of change history. And that would just be a fast, and based where he started from and all that, farm boy, chopping wood and all that. He'd be an interesting person to talk to for sure.
Yeah, I think he definitely makes the top 10 for me of how I would answer that question. For that, and for obvious reasons around what it must be like to be thrust upon a situation where history is happening right in front of you and you dictate what happens next. But I also appreciate the fact that when he first was elected, he brought his enemies into his council and into his confidants and basically said, like, I don't agree with you, but I know that there's a certain segment of the population that agrees with you and sees your side of it. And I have to have your opinion at the table to make the right decisions. And I think it takes a very strong leader and a very strong person to do something like that.
I'm sure there's a political part to that too, but part of it is I just want the best people around me. Like, I just want the smartest people there. So whatever stripe you are, I don't care. Like, that's tell me, and earn the respect like crazy of the other people too. Wow.
We certainly need a little bit more of that in the States these days. But Darcy, fantastic to have you on the show. Thank you for coming on. If our listeners wanted to learn more about you or go through some of your mentor and coaching programs, where is the best place we could point them?
First place to start is just my website, which is my name, Darcy Marler, all lowercase, all together, darcymarler.com. Or I've done about 135 YouTube videos on this subject. No flips and rentals. It's all just development. So it's you go to YouTube and just, again, key in my name, Darcy Marler channel, and you'll find me and start going down the rabbit hole.
Perfect. We will leave those links in the show notes. And Darcy, thanks for coming on.
I've had a blast. Thanks, man. Appreciate this.
Thank you for listening to Ice Cream with Investors. If you like what we serve you here, it would mean the world to me if you would like, subscribe, and leave a review on your favorite podcast app.